The meeting for Tangipahoa Parish Council for November 12, 2019 will now come to order. First, we will have the public hearing. First on the public hearing, Tangipahoa Parish Order 1943. That's an ordinance to amend and recreate the prospective precincts by merger in according with LRS 18532-1 and otherwise provide with respect thereof. Anybody wish to address that? Those are the precincts. All right, next is Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1945. That's an ordinance providing for incurring of the debt issue of not to exceed $7 million aggregate principal amount of the parish of Tangipahoa, State of Louisiana revenue and refinancing bonds, prescribing the form, terms and conditions of the bonds and the security thereof, designating the date, denomination and place of payment for such bonds, providing for the payment of such bonds in principal and interest, and approving and confirming the sale of such bonds, and providing for all other matters with respect to the bonds. Anybody wish to address that item? If not, the next item on the public hearing is Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1946. That's an ordinance amending Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1882 for various developments, regulations. Anybody wish to address that? Next is Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 1847. That's an ordinance placing 20 miles per hour speed limit sign, drive like your kids live here, signs on General Art Lane in District number 10 in the parish. Anybody wish to address that? Somebody does? Not? You want to say? Oh, okay. Go ahead. Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1948. That's an ordinance placing no passing signs on Applewood Road in District number 10 in the parish. Anybody wish to address that? If not, the next item on the public hearing of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1949. That's an ordinance placing no parking sign on the shoulder signs on Kent Drive in District number 6 in the parish. Anybody wish to address that item? The next item is ordinance number 1950. That's an ordinance to grant a variance according with 1913 mobile home placement standards for Glenda Jennings in the parish. That's 4448502. Anybody wish to address that item? All right, the last item on public hearing is Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 1951. That's an ordinance amending Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance 05-20 and 02-52, amending section 60901. Commit of the Tangipahoa Parish Council President govern personnel policies and retirement benefits dealing with the group health insurance. Anybody wish to address that item? If not, we'll go into our regular meeting. Invocation will be by Councilman Mayhew and the pledge of allegiance by Councilman Vial.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you give this council the wisdom, the courage, and the knowledge to make decisions that are fruitful for this parish and for all its constituents. We also pray for all of our sick and the ones in need. We also pray for our military abroad and at home. Pray to bring them all home one day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All veterans and active military, please render the proper salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for
all. Next will be roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest. Here. Mr. Bailey. Mr. Joseph.
Present.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Here.
Mr. Mayhew. Here. Mr. Wells.
Here.
Mr. Vial.
Here.
Mr. Levine. Mr. Cortez.
Here. All right, thank you. Next, we would like to ask if you have cell phones or any other electronic device, if you will please mute them or turn them off. We appreciate it very much. The next item is adoption of the minutes for our regular meeting October 28, 2019.
To move.
Now, a motion by Councilman Vial.
Second.
A second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest. Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Yes. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes. All right, that motion is carried. Next, public input. Anybody wish to address any items that were not on the public hearing? If not, the next item is the parish president report.
Good evening. Just have a couple of quick items to clean up. We have approval of substantial completion for microsurfacing for the program for 2019.
Don't all speak too fast. So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilman Cortez, a second by Councilman Villa. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph? Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried.
The next item is approval of substantial completion for Phase 20 of the overlay program, project number 190122.
Also moved.
Have a motion by Councilman Villa.
Second.
Second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Richtel? Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
All right, that motion is carried.
I have nothing further. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is item number 3, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish ordinance number 19-46. That's an ordinance amending Tangipahoa Parish ordinance number 18-82 for various development regulations. David, that was the one with that.
Yeah, also moved.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Villa,
Second.
second by Councilman Richtel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 4, introduction of Tangipahoa Parish ordinance number 1952. That's an ordinance to authorize the Tangipahoa Parish Council President and Governor to accept the donation of immovable property from Andrew M. Evans II and Catherine Evans, was that Venturon? And to authorize the parish president or any other authorized designee to sign all the documents in regard to the acceptance of the donation.
I'll move we introduce.
Now second.
All right, a motion by Councilman Vial, second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 5, introduction of Tangipahoa Parish ordinance 1953. That's an ordinance amending Tangipahoa Parish ordinance 91-8 and Tangipahoa Parish ordinance 96-3 regarding the Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 13, logging permits.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Cortez,
Cortez.
second by Councilman Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 6, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 19-43. That's an ordinance to amend and recreate the prospective precincts of merger in accordance with LRS 18-532-1, and otherwise to provide with the respect thereof. Those are the precincts.
Also moving, just to add, these are just combining precincts. No one is moving from their voting spot that they have now. Okay?
All right, motion by Councilman Villa. Second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes. All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 6, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1945. That's an ordinance providing for incurring debt and issuing of not to exceed $7 million aggregate principal amount for Tangipahoa Parish, State of Louisiana revenue and refunding bonds, prescribing the form, terms, and condition of the bonds and the security thereof, designating the date, the denomination of place of payment for such bonds, providing for the payment of such bonds in principal and interest, approving and confirming the sale of such bonds, and providing for other matters with respect to the bonds.
Also moved.
A motion by Councilman Villa.
Second.
Bobby.
Bobby second.
Give it
All
to
right,
Bob.
Councilman Cortez then. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried. If the council doesn't mind, there's been a request to move item number 12 up. Item number 12 is adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1951. That's an ordinance amending Tangipahoa Parish Order Number 05-20 and 0252, amending Section 60901, comment of the Tangipahoa Parish Council President of Government Personnel Policy, retirement benefits. That's the Group Health retirement benefits. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Joseph,
Second.
second by Councilman Mayhew, will do.
Mayhew.
Councilman Mayhew.
Mayhew.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph? Mr. Bruno?
Abstain.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 8. Item number 8 is that adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order Number 1947. That's an ordinance placing 20 miles per hour speed limit and drive like your kids live here sign on General Lane in District Number 10 in the parish.
Also move.
Motion by Councilman Vial. Second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 9. Adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order Number 1948. Ordinance placing no passing signs on Happywood Road in District Number 10 in the parish. Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilman Mayhew, I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
A second by Councilman
There you
Vial.
go.
All right, did I get it right?
You got it.
Roll call, thank you.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 10, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order Number 1949. That's an ordinance placing no parking on shoulder signs on Ken Drive in District Number 6 in the parish.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Mayhew. Second by Councilman Ridgel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 11, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order Number 1950. That's an ordinance to grant a variance according with number 19-13 mobile home placement standards for Glenda Jennings in the parish. That's assessment number 4448502.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Mayhew,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Vial. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 13, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Resolution Number R19-26, a resolution for the state of Louisiana 2019 to 2020 LGAP grant.
All right, I think this is some grant dollars that can be up to $150,000,
Yes.
and it can be used for a lot of different things like river gauges and stuff like that. So I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Vial. Second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes. All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 14, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Resolution Number 19-27, a resolution approving the 2019-2021 priority list off-system bridge rehabilitation and replacement program.
I think the list is Randall Road, Creek, North Hoover Road, and North River Road.
I think that is correct.
Off-system bridge, I'll make the motion.
You made the motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second? Second. All right, the motion was by Councilman Vial, the second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried, but before we get to the discussion item, there was one item that we needed to add, that I deal with an appointment for the hospital board. Mr. Vial?
Yeah, this is on behalf of Mr. Cortez, who had to leave. It's, there's a gentleman passed away on the hospital board, as we all know, and this would be that replacement. It is a recommendation from the Rotary Club of Ponchatoula, and we need to amend the agenda, so I'll ask that we amend.
All right, what's the wishes of the
Make a
council?
motion, we amend.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Vial, second by Councilman Joseph to amend the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
All right, motion is carried.
So that appointment would be, and this is from the Rotary Club of Ponchatoula, Angelique Daigle Richardson. Everybody should have a copy of the letter.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
It's in front of you. Is there a second? Yeah. All right, I have a motion by Councilman Vial, a second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest? Yes. Mr. Joseph? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 15, discussion of AT&T service. That's Councilman Bruno.
Yes, I did. I put this on the agenda. We're having some trouble in parts of Laranja with AT&T, not only with the landline service, but also the internet. Some of the residents have been calling them, and they've promised to do something to try to repair the situation, but it's not getting anywhere. If we could, is Andy still here? Oh, he left. He just walked out. I was able to get two numbers, Mr. Sam Emerson and a Dement Richard. I was told these might be the people that we need to talk to see what's going on with this situation. But if we could get somebody, Mr. President, to maybe contact them and see if we can set up a meeting to see what the status is. Apparently, there's an older box on Pulse Road where the problem is, and I don't know what their plans are to replace it or what they want to do, but I think if we can set up a face-to-face meeting.
Definitely, we have an, an account rep, or what do you call it, Rhonda? Who do we have? An AT&T rep, that, governmental rep that we can talk to about.
Okay,
Oh, did they fall under the Public Service Commission?
They do.
they do.
Can I tag on there? I have one, I just got this call recently about AT&T internet stuff in Vineyard Trace, which is right down the block from me on Vineyard Road. And our service is good, their service is terrible. So I can't figure out a rhyme or reason here of how they establish where their priorities are, you know what I'm saying, where they're going to put the service next. This little subdivision is not far from mine, their service is terrible. And it's AT&T, so I'm just tagging on a little bit here.
Yeah, and
Is any of this signals, like cell signal, or
no, this is underground. But,
we don't have any service district,
huh?
not cellular.
Okay.
We have it with Verizon.
I'm working with Robbie to try to get some.
And also, Mr. President, I was made aware today that the bridge replacement on Vetrano,
Right.
the Energy has moved all of their utilities, but the telephone company, again, it's really got the bridge held up until they go and move theirs.
That's AT&T also?
That's an AT&T deal too, so I don't know, we talked about it a little bit before the meeting. Sometimes it's the contractor that has to do that, and sometimes we have to do it, but I know it's holding up that project over there, and it takes long enough when those bridges are closed that something like that,
Yes, sir.
But if you would let me know, I'd like to be in on that meeting if we could.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
That's it? All right, next will be item number 16. We're not here. She's not here.
Not here?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, good. So we'll move on to beer, wine, and liquor permits.
None, no, sir.
None. Legal matters?
None.
None?
None.
Councilman privileges?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Joseph?
As you all know, we lost George Burrell Carter. And just wanted Robert's looking at this program. I want him to know that our sympathy and condolences go out to the family, especially Miss Helen, who was married for 60 years. And of course, Robert serves in the state legislature. Sympathy and condolences go out to the Also, I'd like to thank the council and parish president and administration and the entire parish for the respect and dignity and concern they showed for the veterans yesterday on Veterans Day. Thank you.
Any other councilman privileges? I'd like to give an award tonight to Mr. VL for pushing the meeting on for all the motions that he made, so thank you for that. If not anything else, I entertain
I accept
motion to
I accept
adjourn.
the award. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
All right. All right, have a second. Anybody oppose the motion to adjourn? If not, the motion is carried.